All right, this is exactly where we left off in class today. We finished off talking about the Persian Wars, and we said that the reason that the Persians were defeated by the Greeks was that the Persians had difficulty in supplying their very large army in a distant land. Number two was the tactical error at Salamis. Number three was that the hoplites were more heavily armed than the Persian military. And number four, the tenacity of people defending their homeland. The height of Athenian power. After the Persian War is when Greece goes into their classical period that lasts from roughly 480 to 323 BCE. This is primarily led by Pericles, and he is the leader of Athenian democracy. He extended democracy to most adult males who had an equal voice. Pericles had Athens rebuilt after the Persian War. A lot of it had been destroyed. For example, the Parthenon of Athens was destroyed and then it was built. So this is an example of the reconstruction. During this time period, the Athenian navy dominated the other navies in the area. The Athenian navy had technological advancements. This is the big technological advancement of the time period, the trireme. This is a fast, maneuverable boat, perfect for the Mediterranean Sea at the time. It's very maneuverable because of the 170 oars that power the boat mainly, but the use of the lower class rowers meant the further that democracy was going to spread further in Athens because these rowers were important and they knew that the people were relying on them, so they used that to demand more political rights. The Greeks allowed their new navy to increase their economic gains by becoming a commercial center of trade. They used this wealth to build great buildings or rebuild buildings like the Parthenon. We've got, here's the Parthenon here. You need to be familiar with the types of Greek columns, the Doric, the Ionic versus the Corinthian column. These are a possibility to show up on the SOL. Can you distinguish the different columns? This is something that we have incorporated a lot in our architecture in the United States. Athens attracted a lot of wise men. They practiced arguing, which gave them advantages in politics, because sometimes the better you are at arguing and making your point, the more people you can convince to follow you. We've got some key individuals that you need to know. Socrates is the first. He was one of the best philosophers. He loved to argue. He claimed that he knew one more thing than anybody else, and that was that he didn't know everything. He created the Socratic method of thinking, or I guess I should say that thought process is named after him. Socrates was charged with corrupting the youth and not believing in the gods of the city, and he was sentenced to death. And he had to drink hemlock, which is a poisonous plant. He lacked contrition. That's what they said. They said that, it's not necessarily that you are corrupting the youth, but it's that you're corrupting the youth and you won't admit to it, kind of. So Socrates didn't write anything down, but his best student did, and his number one student was Plato. Plato explored concepts such as justice, excellence, and wisdom, and Plato founded a school for these philosophers to come and study and expand their knowledge and wisdom and understanding, and the name of the school was the Academy. Very famous student of Plato was Aristotle. Aristotle was a student at the Academy, and he was also Alexander the Great's tutor. He was less mystical than Plato, and he wrote on a variety of subjects. Aristotle is given credit for things like writing on politics. He wrote on philosophy, ethics, logic, poetry, rhetoric. He even wrote on physics, astronomy, meteorology, zoology, and psychology. So that's a very long list. And make sure that you know that these three men, so when we look at Socrates, when we look at Plato, when we look at Aristotle, their focus is on reason over religious belief. So make sure you know that these men really, really, really focused on reason. All right, inequality. Let's see. Inequality. Only free adult males could participate in Athenian democracy. So that's saying that only about 10 to 15% of the population. The Athenians owned slaves. There was almost one in every household, and slaves make up a third of the population in Greece. The role of women varied based on what city state that you were in. For example, Spartan women were considered more free, more outspoken, where Athenian women were considered to be more confined and oppressed. Athenian marriages were often unequal. They were arranged, older men marrying younger women. Wives were seen primarily responsible for producing and raising children. Women weaved cloth, they did the cooking, the cleaning, but the relationships between men and women were not very meaningful during this time period. And so I think that's where we stop for today. Yes, so you're going to watch another video that's going to pick up with the Peloponnesian War. I do need to, though, give you a list of names of some people that you need to know. But actually, let me see. I'm going to do it like this because I have a lot of trouble spelling these words. So let me just open up a Word document, and then you'll be able to see me typing these words out right now on the Word document. And so I might butcher the pronunciation and the spelling of them. But if I can just type them out, then you'll know what I'm talking about. So let's see. All right, so the first thing that we want to talk about are dramas. The Greeks are known a lot for their dramas. So you need to be familiar with this person's name, and I do not know how to spell it, but Aeschylus possibly is how it's pronounced, wrote Arestia, and this is a story. So the Greeks were really into writing these tragedies. And so this is a story about a powerful family that was torn apart. And they are torn